Hi, welcome back to Taken Seriously. I'm Lauren Hopkins, the director at Grace, and throughout this podcast series, I'll be bringing you HR leaders to discuss some of the great work carried out throughout lockdown to engage with remote teams, the challenges of the HR profession, as well as the future of HR post-pandemic. Today, I was joined by Noemi Fabian, the Senior HR Generalist at Renesas Electronics Europe, who are a leading microchips and microprocessors provider. Headquartered in Japan, they employ over 20,000 employees over 20 sites, and they have 2 UK sites in Harlow and Bourne End, totaling 140 employees, of which Noemi is solely responsible for. Prior to this, she was based in Hungary, where she spent 2 years working in recruitment and then secured a job at Microsoft within HR before relocating in 2015 to the UK team. And I'm delighted to have her with us today to share her experiences. Okay, well, without further ado, Noemi, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Lauren.
No problem. I've just given you a very brief introduction there, but I can never do the person justice. So in your own words, just paint us a picture, just tell us a bit about who you are, a bit about the company, and specifically what you do there.
Sure. So my name is Noemi Fabian. I have been working at Renesas Electronics Europe for nearly 3 years now. You might know that Renesas is the world's largest MCU maker. We are a leading provider of microprocessors and microchips. To help understand easily what are we doing, just think about any portable device you might have, anything with a screen. Chances are that the microchip in that device, in the screen, is made by Renesas. We are a large international company with over 20,000 employees globally. We've got over 20 sites Europe-wise and globally as well. And the headquarters in Europe is in Germany. So I'm based in the UK. In the UK, we have 2 offices. We have one office in Bourne and one in Harlow. And we are hiring mainly engineers, software engineers, and microprocessor design engineers. So I'm looking after about 140 employees in both sides, and I'm a sole HR person, which means that I'm pretty much looking into every aspect of HR processes, speaking about talent management, talent acquisition, performance management, ER topics as well. And I'm working closely with the HR professionals and colleagues based in Germany. A part of Germany, which is a big hub, we have offices in France, in Italy, in Spain, and in Bulgaria as well.
So I guess you've got the sort of the backing, if you like, of a huge organisation, but because you're a standalone HR function, aren't you, just for the UK? So you've kind of got big company, but also as if you're in an SME UK-wise.
Yeah, it's an interesting combination. That's right, because all the policies and guidelines are coming from Japan. However, they are coming as a framework, and we have the possibility locally to fill with content and to tailor it based on the local employment law, based on the local needs and preferences. We are having regular consultations, discussions with managers and employees to understand that what's their expectation and how we can improve processes moving forward, because there is always something to improve.
So really, you're actually in a very unique situation where you can sort of relate to people in the HR function, both at big global organizations, but also people in HR who work for smaller companies as well, with around 100 plus employees, because you've kind of got both. So actually, you're probably a really great guest to have on this, because you'll hit both sort of target audiences, which is great. So thank you so much for the introduction there.
Yeah, it is.
Just just kind of go back a little bit. Just talk to me about your journey actually into HR. So what you're doing before Renesas.
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
Oh, that's okay. So the beauty of home working is Wi-Fi is not great. Tell us about your sort of career journey prior to Renesas. So what were you doing beforehand?
Mm-hmm. Right. So it might sound like a cliche, but I think that the HR profession chose me and not the other way around. So I had my very first interview 13 years ago. In Hungary, I went to have an interview with at an agency, recruitment agency, so-called PBS International. And I didn't have really high expectations. What I knew is back then that I want to work with people, and I want to work in an office. So it should be an office-based job, dealing with people and handling all their requests. So I had the interview. I think it went well, but unfortunately they didn't have anything available, any vacancies available in that area. So we have agreed that they will get in touch with me whenever they will have any opportunities for me. So in about 2 weeks' time, I've got a call from them, and they were like, well, we didn't find any other, any customers who would have a vacancy currently. However, we are looking to hire someone, and we would like to hire you as a junior recruiter. So I was like, and they asked if I'm interested, and I was like, yes, of course, let's give it a try. And I've spent 3 years at PBS International. I've learned a lot about recruitment, about how does an agency work, about customers. I was mainly focusing on IT area, so software developers and software testers as well. And after 3 years, there was an opportunity at Microsoft. And I have applied to the role. I was I wasn't sure whether I'm gonna get in or not, but I thought that this is an opportunity, I cannot miss it. So I've sent my application, and within 2 days, I've got a call from a senior recruiter that she wanted to meet me. So it was like a dream. To be honest. I had the interview, then I had another one straight away with her manager, with the regional recruitment manager, and I've got a positive feedback within 2 hours. So it was like magic. So I got hired, and I've started within 2 weeks' time. So everything went really smoothly. And that was then a real learning curve started. It was a real journey because experiencing recruitment from an agency perspective is different than hiring for a large international company. So I had a steep learning curve for at least 6 months. And afterwards, I got into some sort of routine. And I really loved it. After about 3 years' time, I felt like I would really love to understand more about the other aspects of HR. So like compensation and benefits, how does that work? Talent management, how can we retain talent? How can we assure that people will stay with us longer than, let's say, 2 or 3 years? So how can we motivate them? How does career management work? So there was an opportunity again, which just popped in. And I have applied for the role, and I've got the HR advisor position. So I've started learning again. It was a steep learning curve. I had little knowledge about employment law, so that was definitely the core of the role. I had to understand how does it work, what are the rules, what's the framework, what I need to follow, what are the processes. And once I understood everything, I've started to work on processes, building them up to make them more effective, more efficient. And I have noticed that there are lots of repetitive questions coming from employees, coming from managers, which could be answered so much easily if I prepared a document, some sort of Q&A, which would answer most of the questions of the employees. So they will come to me once they have personal question, something which is not generic. So that's how I started to build a knowledge base, which then helped reducing the number of questions, the number of queries coming in, and I was able to work more on developing new processes, on contributing to the HR strategy. So that was a great journey. And then in 2005, my family and I jointly decided to move into the UK, to have a fresh new start in the UK, and we got the opportunity to continue working at Microsoft, both of us, my husband and I. So
Okay.
for us, it was pretty much an easy transition. It was a little bit more different for my son, who was 16 back then. So it was a huge change for him, leaving his friends in Hungary, starting everything over in the UK. So that was a little bit bumpy. But after a couple of months, he made friends, and I was able to contribute in the UK, in the headquarters as well, continuing this process of making things more efficient, reviewing policies, contributing to the overall HR strategy. And Microsoft went through a digital transformation, which means that lots of processes, HR processes, have been outsourced, and that's why I have been offered a position, manager position in Prague, which I couldn't accept. I couldn't consider, because we have been settled already in the UK. So that's why I started looking for another opportunity. And I remember the Friday night when I have updated my LinkedIn profile. And on the same evening, I have received a message from my current manager, asking whether I would be open for a new opportunity at Renesas Electronics Europe. They were looking for a senior HR generalist, and I was like, yes, of course, let's see, yes. And I had 4 interviews within 2 weeks' time, and on the 3rd week, I have received my offer. So this is my journey. That's how I started back in 2018. And it's been a great journey at Renesas. I had lots of opportunities to grow and to develop my knowledge, to extend my knowledge, and to have visibility on so many different areas. And I'm really enjoying it. Yes.
Excellent. What a great opportunity as well to work for Microsoft, which probably put you in a really good position to work for Renesas as well. And great to hear about your journey, sort of relocating, and understandably you couldn't then go from Hungary to the UK and to Prague. It's a lot of upheaval, I imagine, but nearly 3 years later, still at Renesas, so hopefully enjoying it still.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for that. So throughout this episode, what both you and I will sort of touch on, we'll have to touch on this year. We can't avoid it, unfortunately, as much as we want to. We can't. So we'll look back at 2020, what's been the most turbulent year ever. We'll look at how it's affected you personally, but also your role as HR, and how it sort of changed your priorities and focus. And then we'll look forward, a bit more optimistic, and look at sort of where we're heading next year, what your main priorities are for the wider business as well. So first of all, I'm going to start by actually just asking how you are, truthfully, at the moment. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. But I have to say that it has been a really challenging period, really challenging time, from both personal and work perspective. Personally, I consider myself an organized, structured person who likes to have, I like to have my priority list, and obviously I have to reshuffle all the time, but I like to see what's coming, and I like to plan ahead. So with this pandemic back in March, I felt that I'm pretty much lost. So I really had to rethink everything in my life, starting with how am I going to work from home, from where, which room am I going to use to work from home, when I'm going to cook, when I'm going to exercise, how am I going to fit work around my whole life, what sort of flexibility can I allow shopping when it's not really crowded and really busy. So it was really difficult for the first couple of weeks to get my head around it. And obviously the main priority was to keep the business going. So I didn't really focus on myself and on my family, I have to be honest. So it took me a couple of weeks to get settled, to think it through, to form new habits, which obviously takes time, and to have a new framework which works, not just with me, with my husband and with my son as well. So it took quite a few days to plan, but I have to say that now with the second lockdown, I feel so much more comfortable and confident with all the processes in place. So it's all right. What I'm really missing is the social aspect, socializing with employees, with friends, with family. Obviously, I really missed it. But I learned that I have to adapt to things, to uncertainty, and I think that's the biggest learning for me: to be nimble, to be swift, and to be able to adapt to things I never heard of and never experienced before. And sometimes it's scary, I have to admit, but we can get through it. I'm pretty sure now.
Yeah, and do you know what?
So
it's
that's
so
the
funny you
first
said that.
side.
You're not the only person who said, particularly at the first lockdown, that you were guilty, and it's not a bad thing. I think it's just human nature. Definitely guilty of focusing on work and the business. Then you're definitely yourself, and I think that's just a reflection, I think, of particularly the HR function, or business owners. That is your, the employees, they are like your family. Business owners, their workforce is their family. And I think everyone just went into fight or flight mode. And I don't think it's, you can't feel guilty for that, because that was what was being impacted so much and so quickly. That you're definitely not the only person that has said that their focus really was on work, particularly in HR. You are, particularly you as well, being the sole HR function for the UK. You were the contact there, probably responsible for delivering updates and trying as best you possibly could to answer people's questions. So you needed to make sure that you were prepared as you possibly could be. And I think you're right. Second time round, we've actually all learned that whilst we do miss things like the social interaction, we did it first time, we coped, we can do it again. And actually it sounds like probably you and I are in a similar position where, we probably got a lot to be grateful for. You weren't living, people who were living by themselves, suffering with anxiety, isolation. On the flip side, you've got people who are the other end of the spectrum, crammed into a house with 4, 5 children. So actually, I think when you sit back and think about your own situation, you're probably similar to me, that you did manage to set up work quite well. Your family is still around. You've got a health, and actually we have got a lot to be grateful for. And second time round was certainly more manageable because it wasn't quite the unknown. I think the first time was, we never ever in your life have you been told that you cannot leave your home. It's just the thought of that is I just find bizarre, even still, that you're not supposed to go and have a hug with your parents, which is something so basic. It's just a human need, isn't it? But to be told you can't do that it's just bizarre. But I think you're right, second time round there were a lot of learnings to take from the first lockdown, personally and professionally, that have definitely helped this one feel a little bit less chaotic. We can plan a little bit more, perhaps. Don't know if you felt like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned family in relation to business, because our feeling is that we are working as a family in Bornen and in Harlow as well, as a big family. We are supporting each other, and there is no bad time, to be honest. If someone has a question, someone could be approached anytime. So there is always someone who can support and help you with any sort of question. Even though we are part of a huge international company, we are still as we mentioned at the beginning, it's a nice combination of a large entity and a small family-like business. And yes, communication has been key over the last couple of months. We operated like a standard company, working from 9 till 5. Most of our meetings were face-to-face. The expectation was, or the habit was then, the tradition was that you had to go into the office, you had to have your meetings face-to-face. Most of the trainings were face-to-face as well. Obviously, there were calls with the headquarters or with the states, with colleagues from the states. But generally speaking, vast majority of the employees were working from the office. So the biggest shock we had and we had to deal with is working from home during the first lockdown. So we had to do quite a lot of planning from HR perspective to rethink our way of work. And the first thing what we had to do is to have a conversation with the management community, to explain them that how can you manage your people, your team remotely, because that was something we didn't do before. They didn't have experience with that. So that was key, to have regular calls with the team, possibly on a daily basis at the very beginning, to understand that, okay, how people are doing, how they are adapting to the change, what are the main struggles, what are the main challenges, and how can managers help them. So that was really important at the beginning. There were coffee breaks organized. And they are still ongoing, which helps to connect people and to give some sort of social interaction. It's not the same as face-to-face, but still it does help to catch up, to share what's happening at home, to wind down a bit. That's also helpful, and also to share the challenges we all are facing challenges. We are having challenges, both personal and work life related, and sharing those, discussing those does help in processing them and to get to a resolution to handle those pretty much. So that was the biggest challenge, to get to a point where both managers and employees are comfortable with this new setup. And then, yes, we have, based on the feedback received, I have realized that, some of the employees are struggling, and I've shared with managers and within the wider HR community, we have discussed that it is okay to not to be okay. So it's important to share that, yes, I'm struggling. I'm struggling because I'm home with young kids. I have to do homeschooling. I have to raise my kids, and I have to work. I have to be productive. So that's obviously just raising kids and doing homeschooling. That's a full-time job, right? And a part of that, you have to fit in your job, and you have to reach those deadlines. You have to release those updates, software updates. There are projects which needs to be progressed with. So based on the feedback, we had conversations within the HR community and with the managers as well, and we have agreed that we need to support people as much as possible. So that's why we have to accommodate people's requests and provided more flexibility when it comes to, doing other work hours, not just from 9 till 5, but handling it more flexibly. Let's say if someone needs to cook, for instance, lunch for the kids and for the family, it's okay to have 2 hours break, and then you can continue. Also, you can continue in the afternoon or in the evening when kids are in the bed. So we had to find a workaround, and I think that managers did a great job when it comes to reshuffling work and reviewing roles and responsibilities within the team, and allow more flexibility, because I'm really proud to say that we are more productive than ever, which is amazing. It's really great. And the feedback received from employees is that they are considering the fact that they can work from home. They really appreciate it. So 90% of the employees are still working from home during the second lockdown, and they have been working from home during the summer when there wasn't lockdown, because they appreciated this flexibility, and they consider this as a benefit, which definitely helps with retention as well. So I'm really, really pleased with that. Also, the feedback when it comes to challenges, when it comes to struggles, we have recognized that, yes, employees will struggle, and they definitely, life is tough sometimes. And this year specifically has been extremely tough. That's why we thought about providing additional support, like I think mental health and physical health has been more important than ever. So that's why we have introduced an employee support phone number or service, which is pretty much counseling. These are pretty much counseling sessions. What we are providing, a third party provides these sessions. So employees can dial a phone number and they can talk about it. They can talk it through with a specialist. This is one pillar what we have provided as the support. We have a so-called health application where there are several tips and tricks on how to de-stress, how to wind down, how to find your balance. There are some exercises to to get distressed. So breathing exercises. There are also some tips on how to quit smoking, how to get more exercise on a daily basis in a clever way, so you don't really need equipment. You can do some sort of exercise, just a couple of minutes every day in your home, in your living room, quite easily, which helps support your immune system as well, your mood, and it helps overall. So that was welcomed as well. And we have recognized that the safest and easiest way to get health-related support in a pandemic is to call a phone number, right? So we have introduced the virtual GP service, which is basically a virtual GP support 24/7. So you can call this phone number and you can speak to a medical specialist within a matter of couple of minutes, basically, and you can discuss all your concerns, and you will get some sort of advice, support, or medication delivered to your home on the same day. So this is something which has been, again, appreciated, and the take-up is quite high.
That's really interesting, actually. Do you think if people are listening and they're working for perhaps a smaller organisation, that I don't know what the cost implications of something like that are, do you think that would be suitable for a smaller company, or perhaps
Yes.
not? Yeah, it would.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It is a great way of supporting employees. It's cost effective as well, and you will get some reassurance that within a couple of hours. So you don't have to wait a couple of days to get potentially a couple of days to get an appointment at your GP. So yes, I definitely think that it is helpful.
Good. It's great to see you've placed so much emphasis on overall well-being, whether that's from a sort of virtual GP or just sort of tips and tricks. I think all of it's so important, and we've all sort of seen the importance of that this year. Are you a bit of an exercise fiend, or?
Yes, definitely. Exercise is just part of my life. Yes.
What do you do normally?
So I'm doing cardio and I'm doing weightlifting, both. And I'm aiming to have five sessions a week.
Wow.
So, yes. Yeah.
Very impressive.
It definitely helps me, distressing. It helps a lot with just coping with all the challenges what I'm facing daily on a daily basis in relation to work and personal life as well. Being in a lockdown, I think that it's even more important to do some sort of exercise, and it helps me a lot to focus as well. Pretty much I got the best ideas while I'm lifting weights.
All right. I'll try it. I must admit, I've typically, when things were open, I was also doing about 4 or 5 mornings a week, and then when things closed, I just didn't get on with the online sessions at all. And there are lots of different ones, but sometimes you take a day or two off and you just have overwhelming guilt for not doing anything, and you just feel really lazy. But sometimes this last couple of weeks I haven't done any exercise. I've gone out and had walks, but not sort of high intensity workouts as I'm potentially used to, and I've actually felt great for it. Normally I wouldn't, but I think it was my body just saying, please stop for a few weeks. Please just stop. I think sometimes you actually do need to just listen to your body, even if you're used to going sort of non-stop. There are times when you know it's okay just to not do that.
I agree.
For a week or so. But I agree, when you are doing it, you it just sets you up for the day, and much easier, I find, to things like concentration, and I am much more productive. I feel really energized, and I feel so much more productive, and I am more productive. I know. You said that you're very structured, and you kind of plan and you have your lists. I wish I could say I was quite as organized. I'm not. It's organized mess. You know, I do have a rough plan of what I'm doing. I imagine not quite to your extent. But I do find if I kickstart the morning well with something like exercise, I am a lot more productive and more structured. My head is just in the game. So yeah, it's certainly it's certainly good work-wise, as well as all the other benefits as well. Now I want to talk to you about when we had our first conversation. I said to you, in terms of the culture there, is it the sort of place where everyone comes straight to HR? Because that is the culture in quite a lot of companies, and you are tasked with answering everything. And when you've got 140 people in the UK that you're responsible for, and there is a lot happening externally, and everyone's got questions on each government update, that's a lot of questions to try and answer and to try and get your head around. And your answer was actually great, and what a lot of HR, I think, departments strive to achieve. And you said actually you had taken on a big sort of education piece with your managers, and actually they were great, and people felt comfortable, and people were approaching them before you, so perhaps you weren't so inundated as some, I know, HR have been over the past few months. So just tell me about the education piece you did with them, because that was really interesting.
Yeah, when I started working at Renesas, on the first week, I have scheduled meetings with the leadership team, first to understand that what are their challenges, what are their projects, what are their goals, from business perspective, just to understand that how can I add value and how can I make a difference. And just from those conversations with the leadership team, I've noticed that there are quite a lot of repetitive questions. And some of the questions were I would say, basic from HR perspective. So following that first week, I had a chance to speak with lots of employees, and I've started working. In the first couple of months, what I have noticed is that I have received quite a lot of repetitive questions, and I focused on the intranet, and I focused on what's available for the employees on a daily basis, what they can look up, what's available in relation to any sort of HR related topic. And what I've noticed that there is room for improvement with regards to the knowledge base, with regards to the policies. So I started focusing on building this up, updating them, creating new documents, new Q&As, new guidelines, and I've started to upload it to the intranet. And any sort of change takes time. So I didn't expect to see a change overnight, that people will not come with the basic questions to me. Don't get me wrong, I really like to interact with people, but when it comes to really basic repetitive questions, I think that there is a more effective way to handle those. So with time, basically there was a communication. I've sent a communication pretty much every month with regards to a specific topic, like benefit enrollment, or like changes in the organization. And I always linked in the link to the intranet site with the respective document. And this is how I started building up the awareness and directing employees to this channel, which is available to everyone. So gradually, I have noticed that people started looking at the documents available on the intranet. So according to that, the number of repetitive questions decreased. So that was one way which enabled me to focus more on the HR strategy and to work closely with managers on their goals. From manager perspective, there are some cases, especially at the beginning, when managers were not confident and comfortable enough to answer employees' questions, to react to employees' questions, which is something which might they decide. I've started to an education process, and I've started to help them to decide and to bring decisions pretty much, that this is something what you can decide, this is something what's in your area of expertise, and you have authority to decide and to approve. For instance, if someone can go to a leave which is 2 weeks longer, 3 weeks, for instance. So according to the business plan, according to the team's availability, this is something what you as a manager can decide. So empowering managers is key, and we are keep doing it. So this is a journey, this is a process, and we have been evolving over the last couple of years. And I don't say that we are there, but I'm sure that we are in a much developed position.
I'm interested to hear how it was met at the beginning by managers, because I actually spoke to a client a week or so ago about the education piece with managers, and whilst they're sort of probably at the similar stage as you, they're not quite there, but they're really, they're sort of underway. I think initially, whilst it's great, you want to empower your managers, you want to give them more autonomy to make decisions that, frankly, they are more than capable of making. It's more a case of, it's just always been that way that HR have sort of been the contact. But at the beginning, I think there was a little bit of resistance. Whilst they wanted to, have more autonomy, their initial thought was, oh, this is going to be more work for me. More, increased workload. I'm already stretched. But actually, I don't know if you met with any resistance at the beginning or not so much.
Yes, and I think that building trust is key when it comes to working together with the management. Because in the past, HR was perceived as more a transactional administrative function. And I have had quite a lot of chats with HR professionals, and we have been sharing same experiences. However, when it comes to stepping up and getting into the level when HR can contribute to the strategy, overall business strategy, I think that the first thing what we have to achieve is building trust, achieving trust, and cooperate together. So once you have that level of trust, that managers know that, yes, I can rely on the HR function. Yes, they can contribute, they can help me on a daily basis with my talent management strategy, how to retain my key performers and high potentials, how to enhance the compensation so I can align it with my business strategy, then that will help definitely in this partnership.
Excellent. Okay, thank you for that. I was delighted to hear when we first had a conversation that it's not just you that's been bombarded with all of the questions, that the work has been shared out, which quite rightly it should be. But I know that, like you said, it does take time to change how things work. Time takes change, change takes time even to implement. And when managers are so used to, passing things straight to HR, it's great that you're sort of on the road, and great because it's going to be one less thing for you to do. You've got enough on your plate, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's like a give and take.
Yeah, and it benefits everyone in the long run. It's it's not just you trying to pass off some work. It's really key that managers have those relationships and that their team feel that they can go to them, and often they know them best. It's their team, so they are often actually the best people to answer. And if you can empower them at the same time and give them more autonomy, I mean, who doesn't want that, right?
Exactly.
So
yes.
Well, look, we'll close off on 2020, I think. Looking into next year, into the future. What are your sort of key priorities from an HR perspective? What are your sort of focus going to be for Q1 and Q2?
Yeah, I think that the biggest learning was that we, as a community, can work productively. Working from home, we do have the IT infrastructure, we have all the systems and tools in place. So we would definitely, and I would definitely look into the new way of work in the next quarter or so, because we would like to implement what we have learned during these couple of months. And what really works well is working from home, but probably there will be a balance between working from home or working remotely. It's not just working from home, but we will enable employees to work from anywhere pretty much. So they can work from a coffee shop or a train or from the garden or park, wherever they want, given that they are doing it safely, and also the work allows to do them. But I would like to enable more flexibility moving forward and implement all the learnings. So I will definitely work with the managers and with the wider HR community to have a new frame, to have a new policy which enables this way of work moving forward.
I think there's something so empowering about giving people the option of where, their role is not so much dictated by themselves, but giving people the option to choose where they want to be, where they feel productive. I think there's something really, really quite empowering about that. And I think giving people that option, like you said, you're seeing productivity levels through the roof, which is fantastic given the year that we've had. And like you said, a lot of that is probably because of the flexibility you've given them to make that choice themselves and kind of put the decision onto them.
Yeah.
And I know firsthand, we know at the beginning, I've said this time and time again on these episodes, we were, as a company, not set up to work remotely. We'd always been office-based. Mm-hmm. And that's something I've always wanted to look at. It's probably like you, been on the list, and it's just stayed on the to-do list, as lots of things do for years and years. And so actually it just forced us to do something that I, for years, have wanted to do. The thought for me of being able to go away, go abroad, and still be able to work, for me, is just an absolute dream. I'm a big lover of travel, and I went away earlier this year on holiday in August to Portugal, managed to head over straight to France, onto Italy. I was away, out of the country for what was almost a month, 3.5 weeks, but I wasn't off work for 3.5 weeks. I had a week off, and then I worked the rest from the Italian lakes. I was in France, working, dotted around a wedding. That I would never been able to do that, but because I was able to, that was my choice. I had chosen to go somewhere that I wanted to be, and I felt I was so productive. And I think it's a lot of it does come down to choice.
Yeah,
massively.
Absolutely.
Obviously it's quite distracting if you're in a really lovely place, but you know what you've got to do, and we're adults. You can just be really productive. And the same on the same sort of topic that you were saying, people with children, giving them the choice, not saying, well, you have children, so we'll move your hours to this. It's, well, you need to work when you feel it's suitable, when you have put the children to bed, or after you've cooked, after you've made lunch. I think it is all about choice, which I don't think a lot of businesses, mine included, have necessarily had or given employees before.
And it makes such a huge difference.
Massively. And we are adults, but so often, actually, in a lot of workplaces, we are treated like children because you are told so much. There is limited choice, even in some companies, or a lot, your lunch, you might not be told exactly to the minute when your lunch is, but it's got to be within this window. You know, we're quite limited, I think, as employees as to the decisions that you can actually make. So that is, I think, something that is really good to come out of this, is more autonomy, more decision making for employees than just being told, because yeah, we're adults. We should really be treated like adults until we prove them wrong.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I agree. This is the biggest learning, and it comes down to trust, I guess, from both sides.
Yeah.
But once you have that trust and that relationship, then yeah, it works from both sides, and it is really appreciated.
And you've seen firsthand that it works, because you know productivity is really high, probably largely as a result of you being able to say, okay, you know, it's give and take. We're going to be a lot more flexible with you. That is probably hugely appreciated, and you're then seeing productivity increase, which is, and it's of no cost to you. You know, really, it doesn't matter to you when your employees are working. If they have a 2-hour lunch break and work an extra, you know, hour later on, or if they start earlier, it's of no cost to you, but it does mean so much to them to show that you're giving and you understand.
Absolutely. As long as the work is done, people are adults, yes, and they can decide exactly that what they can fit into a work day.
Definitely. And something I always like to ask people, and this can be personally or professionally, lots of people choose something personally, what your sort of biggest learning, and that could be about yourself. Gosh, I've learned lots about myself the last year.
Well, what I've learned is adapting to uncertainty. That's something what was a huge challenge, and I think that I've learned a lot about myself, how to handle these kind of situations, and how to keep calm, not panic too much, and how to find a way, a workaround which works for me and which works for the company, works for the family as well. So I think that I've learned to be more nimble, and yes, these uncertain situations just helped me to adapt much quickly as ever before.
You don't seem like someone who on the outside gets very stressed. Whenever I speak to you, you always sound very calm, collected. I don't know if that's just good acting. I don't know.
I can get stressed, obviously. Yes.
Under the surface, like a swan, just calm on the outside, but underneath, just pedaling away.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I think that's a perfect place to close off. Thank you so much for giving up your time today to
thank you very much for this opportunity.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much, and thank you for anyone who's listening. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, and you.